This film begins by showing a 20-year-old art student named Minami. At that moment, Minami is on a train and meets a beautiful girl named Emi. Upon seeing Emi reading a book, Minami immediately falls in love at first sight. Feeling that this opportunity will not come again, Minami decides to meet Emi at the next station stop. However, Emi had already gotten off the train and Minami realizes this too late. After that, Minami has to rush off the train and quickly chase after Emi. After successfully catching up to Emi, Minami turns out to be a rather brave young man. Because Minami bravely introduces himself to Emi and expresses his feelings. At that moment, Minami expresses that he has fallen in love at first sight with Emi and wants them to get to know each other. After that, Minami immediately asks for Emi's phone number. However, Emi turns out not to have a phone, so she doesn't give it to him. Upon hearing this, Minami misunderstands, so Emi quickly explains that she indeed doesn't have a phone. In the end, they both chat while waiting for the train. From their conversation, Minami finally learns that Emi is also 20 years old. After they chat, the train Emi is waiting for finally arrives, and Minami asks if they can meet again tomorrow. However, Emi suddenly bursts into tears and says they won't meet again. Back at campus, Minami tells his friend named Soichi about the earlier events. Furthermore, Minami asks Soichi for advice on what to do. At that moment, Soichi suggests that Minami should meet Emi again. The next day, Minami, following Soichi's advice, immediately goes to catch the train at the same time. However, unfortunately, after passing several stations, Minami still hasn't met Emi. After giving up on meeting Emi, Minami decides to go to the zoo to paint a giraffe, which he will gather for his college assignment. While painting, unexpectedly Emi suddenly appears and greets Minami. At that moment, Minami is surprised and wonders how Emi knew he was at the zoo. Upon hearing that, Emi said that yesterday Minami had informed his activities. However, Minami felt confused because the day before he hadn't mentioned his activities at all. However, Minami also realized that he had forgotten a bit about what they had talked about yesterday, so Minami chose to ignore that. When Emi saw Minami's painting, she immediately praised his painting, saying that Minami's painting would receive an award and be displayed in front of the class. Not long after leaving the zoo, Minami invited Emi to go to a lake, where Minami told her that the lake was very meaningful to him. When Minami was 5 years old, he had almost drowned in that lake. Luckily, Minami was saved by an adult woman. Unexpectedly, Minami's story was almost the same as Emi's experience. When Emi was 5 years old, she also almost drowned in that lake. Luckily, Emi was saved by an adult man. After hearing that, Minami was very surprised because his experience and Emi's experience were very similar. At the end of the meeting, Minami dared to try once again to ask for Emi's phone number, and this time Emi gave him her number, even though it was a home phone number. After they returned home, Minami, who had obtained Emi's phone number by then, immediately told Soichi. At that moment, Minami asked what other steps should be taken. Soichi, happy with his friend's progress, told Minami to contact Emi immediately and ask her out. Initially, Minami hesitated, but Soichi kept insisting, and that night Minami finally contacted Emi. After successfully asking her out, Minami felt very happy and grateful for Soichi's help. The following days, Minami and Emi went to the planned place. On their date, Minami took Emi to a rather romantic place, where Emi told Minami that she had actually been watching him for a long time. However, Minami had never realized it. After hearing that, Minami, realizing that Emi had given a signal to start a relationship, gathered the courage to confess his love. Eventually, starting from that night, they became a couple. The next day, Minami decided to look for a new place to live because he shared an apartment with Soichi. On the day of his move, Minami was helped by Soichi to move his belongings. And unexpectedly, Emi suddenly came to help Minami tidy up his things. When Emi opened a card box, unexpectedly she found an old box. At that moment, Minami explained that the box was a gift from the woman who had saved him when he almost drowned. It turns out that after 5 years since that incident, the adult woman came to see Minami again, giving him the box and asking him to keep it until they met again. Some time later, after Emi helped Minami tidy up his belongings, Minami escorted Emi to the station because Emi had to be home before midnight. As time passed, since Minami moved to his new place, it brought him and Emi closer. In fact, almost every day they spent time together, although Emi always asked to go home before midnight. Until one day, Emi decided to cook for Minami. Surprisingly, the food Emi made tasted just like his mother's. When Minami asked for the recipe, Emi immediately answered that the food was mixed with chocolate. Upon hearing this, Minami was immediately surprised because chocolate was an ingredient that his mother always added to Minami's favorite food. After that incident, Minami became curious about how Emi knew that recipe, and he began to ask her. But Emi only said that she knew the recipe because Minami himself had told her. After hearing that, Minami was puzzled because he had never told Emi about his family's recipe, and Emi's words triggered Minami's memory back to when he first met Emi. Starting from Emi easily finding Minami's whereabouts, Emi also once said that Minami's painting would be displayed in front of the class. And that proved to be true because a few days later, Minami's painting indeed became the best and was displayed in front of the class. Minami often encountered other oddities, like Emi crying at inappropriate times. But when Minami asked about it, Emi just said it was a coincidence. As time passed, they were always together. Until one day, after Emi returned from Minami's house, he accidentally found a book. After Minami tried to read it, it turned out to be a diary, but the dates written in the book looked very strange. When Minami read in the book about today's event still dated March 1st, in the book, it was already written March 16th. Furthermore, when Minami read all the contents of the book, each date was written with a countdown. Even on the day Minami and Emi met, in the book, it was written as the 30th day for Emi, and on the second day of their meeting, in the book, it was written that it was the 29th day for Emi. Minami was very curious about the book and immediately tried to contact Emi. Unexpectedly, it turned out that Emi had intentionally left the book. Additionally, Emi also said that she had been hiding something from Minami and planned to tell him tomorrow. The next day, Minami met with Emi. At that moment, Emi immediately told Minami that she came from a world with a different time distortion from Minami's. So time in Minami's world progressed forward, while time in the world where Emi lived moved backward. So the future for Minami was the past for Emi, and Emi's future was the past for Minami. Their opposing time life was a strange occurrence, where they could only meet once a month every 5 years. And their meeting was not just a coincidence because they could meet again at the same age of 20 years. Furthermore, Emi also told that the man who had saved her in the past was Minami when he was an adult. Likewise, when Minami almost drowned in the lake at that time, it was Emi who tried to save him when she was 35 years old and Minami was 5 years old. After that, Emi asked Minami to open his old box to make Minami believe more in what she had conveyed. Surprisingly, when Minami opened the box, its contents were a photo of Minami with Emi and his parents. The photo startled Minami because he had never taken Emi to meet his parents. It indicated that the photo was taken from Emi's past, which was the future for Minami. Moreover, Emi herself had already experienced these events beforehand, so she knew the days of the events that Minami would experience tomorrow. At that moment, Minami could only remain silent after knowing this reality while continuously thinking about what would happen to them. Amidst the confusion, negative thoughts arose in Minami's mind, suggesting that Emi was merely acting out a script written in her book. Due to these negative thoughts, they had a disagreement, which led to Minami leaving Emi alone. Until one night, still confused about his feelings, Minami began to reminisce about his memories with Emi because all those beautiful memories couldn't be forgotten by him. When Minami thought about their memories, he realized the peculiarity of Emi often crying at inappropriate times. And it was related to the timeline they traversed because something experienced first by Minami became something experienced last by Emi due to their opposing time directions. Minami soon realized this and immediately contacted Emi to apologize for everything that had happened. Furthermore, Minami had decided to spend the remaining time with Emi, and since the next day, they began to be close again. Until one day, Minami invited Emi to meet his parents. At that moment, they chatted as if Emi had become part of Minami's family, and at that moment, Minami's mother even shared Minami's favorite food recipe. In their final moments together, it was Minami who cried more often at inappropriate times, as he remembered their approaching farewell. Eventually, they reached the 30th day, which became the first day for Emi to meet Minami. After that, Minami painted Emi's face for the last time while crying. While he also recounted all his past memories to Emi, which would later become Emi's future memories. After finishing painting Emi, that night Minami escorted Emi to the train station. As they sat on the station bench, Minami looked at Emi's face and held her hand tightly until midnight arrived, which was their time limit, before Emi disappeared. In the end, the story reveals how Minami and Emi could connect. So, 5 years after their separation, when Minami was 25 years old, he came to meet Emi, who was then 15 years old. At that time, Minami gave a painting of 20-year-old Emi to her. After seeing the painting, Emi resolved to wait 5 years ahead to meet Minami again, who would still be 20 years old. After that, the scene shows Emi's perspective, who successfully found Minami at the age of 20. That's the reason why Emi cried when she first met Minami because that day was the 30th day for her. It means Emi had been with Minami for the past 30 days and had witnessed Minami's changes every day as he kept forgetting her. Just like Emmy slowly forgot Minami because of the difference in the direction of time. And the movie ends. Moral lesson from the story: if you're on a train and fall in love with someone reading a book, make sure they don't get off at the wrong station or you might end up painting giraffes at the zoo. And, never trust a recipe that claims to taste like your mom's but involves chocolate. It might just be a time-traveling romance waiting to happen.